Ladies and gentlemen, we are live!
Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600. Untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Punch the Face Radio. I'm your host, Brandon Stubbs. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. Tonight we're going to talk some farewell to Miguel Cotto with his final bout being here this Saturday live on HBO. We'll talk about last week's card on HBO and me and Kelly Duvo on last week's show talking into existence Sergey Kovalev coming back and being the Krusher. We'll also be joined by Steve Forbes here in the second hour. And we're reaching out right now to get Omar Figueroa here on air. But you can be part of the show by tweeting me at least for the first segment of the show at Brandon P2TF if you're listening live. We'll be taking calls a little bit later in the show. So, like I said, man, it's be an emotional segment of the show for me here a little bit later as we talk Miguel Cotto's retirement fight. As he will fight Sadam here in Madison Square Garden here this Saturday. And as well, we'll also go through the Punch the Face Radio poll as to what you thought was Miguel Cotto's best moment of his career. And, we'll kind of talk about that here a little bit later in the show, and I'll also give my predictions for that. Now, the reason why we're reaching out to Omar Figueroa now, so forgive me here if I seem a little bit off. I just want to make sure that I get him the information I told him was going to contact him once we got on live here on the air. So we reached out to Omar here earlier this afternoon. Kind of got some buzz around him right now in boxing because there's a rumor bout that's being spoken upon, and we really want to get it directly from the source. So we reached out to Omar to see if he can come on the show tonight and kind of talk about that and what may be next for him in 2018. So we'll wait for him to call in here in a little bit to talk about that. But as well, later on the night, we'll have Steve Forbes, 2 pound as he's like to be called. Steve Forbes is now stepping into the promotional angle and aspect of boxing after almost a 20-year career as a professional fighter. He's going to be putting on his first card here on December the 9th. In Portland, Oregon, at the Jackson Armory. So we'll talk to him about coming back to boxing now as a promoter. After a couple of years out of the ring, I know he's been doing some training, working with some fighters, and actually working with some MMA fighters as well. I could definitely get his impression on boxing today as opposed to when he was an active fighter and coming up, and what he plans to do and what his vision is here for 2 Pound Sports and Entertainment is him doing the promotional thing. So we'll talk to him here. He'll be here back half of the show. So we do have a caller calling in here now. I don't know if that's Omar calling in this quickly or not, but I will bring him here on the show. So caller, you're now live here on Punch the Face Radio. Caller, you're on.
Hello?
Hello, this is Punch the Face Radio.
Yes, this is Omar.
Omar, you got us here a little bit early. Okay. Omar Figueroa is now joining us live. Undefeated fighter, 27-0 with 1 draw. Draws, they are what they are. Omar, man, I appreciate you taking out time this evening and calling into the show.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's kind of start with the last time we all saw you here in the ring. That was here in July. You stopped a relative durable fighter in Robert Gurrero and caused him to retire. I mean, you put him out of commission permanently. Let's kind of just start there. That was your first bout in almost, all of 2016 you were out. How did you feel going into the bout? And physically, how did you feel after the fight with Robert Gurrero here this past July?
Well, I felt ready, mainly, and healthy, which is, why I was so excited to get in the ring after such a long time. And I guess the thing that I like most about that is the fact that I kind of developed a bit of nerves knowing I was going in there with a big name like Guerrero. And, I mean, after so long, I had lost, I had lost sense of that feeling that you get, the adrenaline rush and everything, and just the cameras and the people. And, I mean, it's exciting. And, that's what, as boxers, I feel that that's what we live for.
Now, this was a fight here at 147 pounds. We'll kind of talk about some other things here going forward, but what weight class do you see yourself being at as we go in now to 2018? Because we've had a little bit of issues with some weight, and, you came up here and weight to fight at welterweight here this summer. What weight do you look at as being the weight that you want to stick at going into 2018?
Well, we're going to try and get down to 40, but, I mean, obviously, I didn't struggle at all with the weight this past time, and the only reason we decided to do the fight at 147 is because I had spent so long out of training and exercising, basically. And so we didn't want to kill my body too much and try to drop too much weight. But I actually, the night prior to the weigh-in, I was at 144. So, like I said, I had no problems with weight, and I'm pretty sure I can make 140. I mean, I don't see why not. But I don't know at what weight that my next fight will be at exactly. But I'm looking to get back down to 140 and hopefully capture world title there too.
Speaking of your next fight, so this is the buzz that's now going around boxing here this week. There is a rumor that a fight is done or close to being done with a gentleman by the name of Mikey Garcia for you. Now, can you give us any insight as to where negotiations are with that fight right now? Is that something that's looking to be a done deal? Maybe we'll get more closure maybe before the week is out. Is that something that looks to be the most likely scenario is your next fight here come next year?
To be honest, I wouldn't be able to tell you. All I know is that we tried making that fight happen, and they didn't want to take it. But that was the last I heard. I don't know if they changed their mind or what's going on with that, because I don't care who I fight. I honestly, I truly do not care. So I was pushing for just any fight at a certain time frame. But when certain names were brought up, obviously I like the Mikey Garcia fight. I like any fight that. But from what I heard, they weren't, too hyped about the fight themselves.
Now, when was the last time that you actually, talked to people at PBC in regards to your next fight, whether it be against Mikey Garcia or someone else? When was the last time any discussions were made about getting you back in the ring?
It wasn't too long ago. I called to confirm because I don't really keep up with boxing when I'm not trained. Well, I barely keep up with boxing when I'm training. But I don't really care for any boxing news that's floating around. So when people started asking me about it, that's when I took notice, and I talked to Mr. Heyman, and I asked him if that fight was done or what had happened, because like I said, last I heard they weren't, they didn't take the fight, or they weren't accepting the fight. Something about them not being too excited about that matchup. And so that more than likely it wasn't going to happen, but he told me that for me not to worry, that he would let me know when something was set up. So as far as I know, it's not a done deal at least.
So wait a minute. So kind of a couple of different things here. One, you actually talked to Al Heyman, which a lot of us in the boxing community kind of want to be like a unicorn. We never see this guy. Everybody gets these phone calls. It's almost like the bat signal goes off, and then, like, you get a call from Al Heyman out of nowhere?
Kinda. I mean, when you need him, he's there, and he usually, minds his own business and tries to take care of us fighters, which I feel is the best thing that could have happened to boxing.
And, a lot of times we hear the polar opposite of that. So is that maybe a stigma? A lot of us who aren't in that circle of PBC and around Al Heyman, a lot of us that we just don't understand that he actually does genuinely care about the guys he's doing business with.
I honestly feel like it is that way. And I don't know about you, but you can ask any PBC fighter, and I'm pretty sure they will tell you the same thing. I have no complaints about Golden Boy either. I enjoyed my time with them. They helped me, get to where I'm at in my career, and they did a lot for me, and I appreciate that. But when it came down to it, we fight for money, and they just weren't paying enough.
Well, I gotta understand. I respect that. I mean, this is a hurt business, but you also have to maximize your dollars and your earning potential as a fighter. Now, with that being stated, you only fought here once so far this year, and obviously we only got December left here in 2017. Doubt we're going to see you in the ring again. That would be crazy, but hey, stranger things have happened. How active do you want to be in 2018, given the fact you've only had one fight in a 2-year span?
Yeah, we're looking to get 3 fights in 2018.
So 3 fights 2018, preferably at 140, and you're trying to – you want to be – do you want to – I know we've seen this quote from you that you don't really care about belts. You're just there – you want fights, and you want to be a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But, 140 is really wide open. I mean, it is wide open now that Terrence Crawford has moved up in weight. Is that something that you're kind of looking at and saying, okay, it's belts out there, it's opportunity out there, I can go out there and take advantage of that 140 come 2018?
If it happens, it happens. If not, I'm fine. I'm fine with it. I don't care as long as I get some good names opponents in there, and we give the fans a good show.
Oh, absolutely. Now, one thing you did just say that it kind of caught me for a loop here, that that you're not really watching boxing or that involved in boxing when you're not actively training, or even when you're training, you're not paying too much attention to it besides yourself. Is that something just you've been around boxing just so much throughout the years to where you've just kind of, I don't want to say desensitized to it, but it's just not something that you're just totally engulfed in when you're not actively fighting yourself?
Boxing is a full-time sport. Even if I'm not training or anything, my mindset, my mentality, my whole life has been revolving around boxing since I was 6 years old. My dad never, let up on that. So, yeah, I get tired of boxing, and, I mean, I've been doing it for 21 years now, or fighting at least for 21 years, training for 22, and like I said, it's something that it just gets old sometimes.
Completely understandable. So, right now in your downtime, how much training are you doing? Since, like I said, we saw you in July, we don't know what's up to as far as ahead here in 2018. How much training are you doing here on a weekly basis?
I try and get to the gym every day, whether it be a light workout or something like that. But I try to stay active and get to the gym every day, or if not, at least go for a jog. But I'm going to start ramping them up, because if I do have a fight early 2018, I need to be prepared for that. So I've actually been ramping it up a little bit as time goes by.
Well, absolutely. Well, Omar, man, we appreciate you, stopping by and kind of giving us an update here in regards to this Mikey Garcia fight that is not a done deal that is being reported out there. Anything you want to shout out, anybody you want to plug while you got the opportunity here on the show?
As always, I'd like to thank my fans that stick by me, that believe in me, and my family, my sponsors, Mr. Heyman, of course, that takes care of us. And I don't know, I guess it's really not up to us, the whole Mikey Garcia thing. I already come to terms and agreed to whatever terms were thrown my way regarding that fight, and that's usually what I do regarding any fight. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens with that.
Well, absolutely, man. Well, Omar Figueroa, man, we appreciate you taking our time, giving us an update, and we look forward to seeing you in a busy 2018, and, happy holidays to you and your family, my man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, and likewise.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
All right, shout out to Omar Figueroa for joining us here on the show. Now, we do have a little minor technical difficulties here, because it looks like Blog Talk is actually going to cut the show off. So we'll be back here in a few moments if you're listening live with more Punch to the Face Radio. All right, I am back here on Punch to the Face Radio. I apologize for anyone who was listening live. I'm not really sure what happened here with Blog Talk, but We're back. We're back on the show. We're back here live to talk boxing and just kind of maybe to recap a little bit about what Omar Figueroa, we want to thank him for coming on the show, was talking about. The deal is done on his side. It's Mikey Garcia's team right now that's holding some things up by the sounds of regards to getting this fight done. Now, like I said, this has been something that's been publicized in regards to the fight getting done and being out there, and that's why he wanted to come on the show today and just say, nah, not so much. It's not officially together at this point. Excuse me. So I appreciate him calling in and giving us the clarification we needed on that. So that's not a done deal here for January 27th as of yet. Interesting to hear him say in regards to Al Heyman that pretty much he's like the backbone. But he's there when you need him, which, honest to God, I will say this. In talking to the PBC fighters I've talked to throughout my time and doing the show and covering boxing, they all kind of say the same thing, that, he does reach out and he does talk to guys and does help them when they need help. So I guess it's one of those things, if you're loyal to Al, Al's loyal to you. I got to respect that. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to respect that. So crazy to think that is the case. But, yeah. And shout out to Guillermo Rigondeaux's Twitter handler. I tweeted out to Guillermo Rigondeaux here before the show. Would he continue to be as vocal on social media, win or lose, versus Lomachenko here next weekend? His response was, let me rephrase this, his Twitter handler's response, because Guillermo Rigondeaux does not speak this good of English: I will continue to be myself. Losing to a guy like Lomachenko is nothing to be ashamed of. However, losing to me is nothing to be guaranteed so far. So, there's that. Shout out to Guillermo Rigondeaux. Nothing respect for him and Lomachenko. Next week we'll be talking a lot more in depth in regards to that fight when Adam Abramowitz joins me. So I do want to get into let me start off here with recapping here last weekend's fights. And it's a shame that we can't get a true unification or tournament here at 175, because it really needs to happen. Sergey Kovalev went out and looked like Sergey Kovalev of old. He went out and he pretty much beat up Shabranskyy in a fight that was really not close. I mean, you saw the confidence was back with Sergey Kovalev, and that's a good thing. That's what we needed. We needed to see him be back to himself and have that confidence and go out and, no pun intended, crush opponents. So he did that against Shabranskyy, made light work of him 2 rounds, got him out of there. Shabranskyy was outclassed, and I mean, that's something that we kind of saw coming when this fight was being booked. But he did what he was supposed to do against a lesser opponent. He went out and he beat the opponent. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go out and you're supposed to handle the opponent. So he went out there, did that, did a good job of it. So, congrats and kudos to him for doing that, which now leads us to the question of what's next for him. There's already a date set up for Sergey Kovalev, March 3rd, back in New York at Madison Square Garden. There are some names already kind of floating around. It's a little bit early. Dmitry Buev is one. I don't really see that being the case. I don't see him doing that. I actually see Dmitry Buev versus Sadam Barrera. That's actually been ordered by the WBA that he holds the belt for, Buev. So I look for that fight to happen first, and I think that makes a little bit more sense. Don't completely, if your main events, and I've said this, you don't want to cannibalize your roster right now. Dmitry Buev is doing business with main events here in the States, but, if Sadam Barrera's number contender for that, why not make that fight? And obviously, whoever wins that fight versus Sergey Kovalev makes it even a bigger fight. Don't rush, Sergey versus Dmitry right now to unify titles. Have Buev do another fight here in the States, build a little bit more buzz, give him a headline HBO championship boxing card, and boom, you have him and Sergey fight each other at some point, maybe spring of next year. They even talk about Dimitri possibly being the co-headliner on that March 3rd card for Sergey Kovalev. So I can see that as well. But like I said, all signs point to negotiations being ordered here for Sullivan Barrera and Dimitri Biev. You know, Barrera had a very tough fight against Valera, was the gentleman's name, very awkward style. Came forward, was very aggressive, did knock down Barrera early in the fight, but Barrera gained his composure, was able to win on the cards. Did suffer a lot of low blows. It's kind of a aesthetically unpleasing fight to watch, but Barrera did his thing and boxed, and he couldn't get the guy out of there. Let's give Barrera a lot of credit. He was tough. He hung tough for the fight, but ended up losing down the line. So you got to respect that, got to love that. So I don't know, man, 175 is still the most interesting division to me as we head into 2018 and who's going to be fighting who and where. And I don't know what's going to happen with the champions because we have various different champions. We have Adonis Stevenson, who's kind of there. I don't want to say he's the wild card, but he's the one who seems the less interested, maybe the best way of describing it, of the current champions at 175 who would be interested in fighting other top contenders or other champions. He's putting out videos saying he's getting his name called out. Call 1-800-AL Heyman. The fight him with Edner Alvarez sounds like it may get pushed back again. The fight with Badu Jack I thought was finalized, is not a done deal. There's a lot more questions than answers in regards to what exactly is going on with him and who he's going to fight next. If those are his two options, they're going to be tough options and legitimate options. But I hope those are his two options. I hope there's not some other name that gets pulled out of a hat, somebody else who gets selected to take the fight. I hope that's not the case. But stranger things have happened. Like I said, 175, you have Sergey now is the WBO champion. Artur Beterbiev won the IBF title a couple of weeks ago. We have Biev, the WBA champion, and Adonis Stevenson at WBC. Stevenson has his own issues here with issues going on with, not getting top guys. But Biev has contractual issues going on as well. A lot of weird stuff. But we do have a caller calling in right now here from the 619. Caller, you're here live here on Punch the Face Radio.
Hello, this is Giandra LaBeouf calling from Los Angeles.
What's up, girl?
What's cracking, Brandon Stubbs?
Oh, man. This warms my heart, Jay. This has been a long time since me and you have been on the same air together. What is on your mind, girl?
I'm really feeling what you're talking about the landscape of the light heavyweight division, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, and it's really frustrating to see all of the other light heavyweights active and competing, but we still have Adonis Stevenson, who is just sitting back posting pictures on Instagram. He's not being stripped. He's not being threatened with being stripped of the title. We saw Tyson Fury barely won the title. Granted, every organization, every sanctioning body have their own rules, but Jesus, what does this guy got to do to get in the ring? And he's still the champion. He's still the reigning champion. At this point, put him in with a bum. Put him in with somebody just so that he's active. And it's ridiculous to me.
Well, I mean, we've seen him in there with bums and guys who had no business fighting him. And I think that's what's gotten fans so frustrated. And that's why I was really excited about the Badu Jack fight that I thought was a done deal for January. And all of a sudden now it's like dead, no radio signal. It's like nothing from Mayweather's camp in regards to Badu Jack in his next fight. But they say he's got something big planned. Adonis is, sitting eating crawfish or something and talking about call 1-800-AL Heyman. I don't know what's going on. I'm confused, and I confuse easily. But this is really confusing here with regards to Adonis Stevenson and his title here at 175.
It's as confusing as Chinese calculus. Can you imagine what the negotiations are like? You have a fighter who is promoted by Floyd Mayweather, and the other fighter who's promoted by, quote unquote promoted by the person who promoted Floyd. So I can imagine that these conversations are probably awkward. Like, does Floyd call Al like, yo, what's up? Like, it's just very, very, it's probably very awkward to try to negotiate the fight. And, you know, I would love to be a fly on the wall when they're trying to get this together. I'm impressed with Badu Jack. He really has come up over the last few years, been very competitive. I'm sure he wants to fight, too. He wants to crack at it. Even if they don't want to do business with the other promoters and they want to keep the money in the house, so to say, do something. Do something with him, because I'm from a fan. I'm talking from a fan perspective tonight and not a media perspective. It's just very frustrating, and it diminishes the sport when you see things like that happen, but then in the next breath, they're threatening to take titles away, or they force fighters to vacate titles if they haven't negotiated their next fight within a month. It's crazy.
Now, in all seriousness, though, and it's something that if you have the opportunity, if you happen to see him, I want you to ask Andre Ward, especially if you say before the year's out somehow, did he get a Christmas ham, a gift card, something from somebody at 175? Because he is the biggest gift to them right now. Him retiring has made everybody champions again, is making some people some money. It's, you know, last week when I was talking to Kathy Duva, you know, main event's promoter, I really wanted to ask her, like, okay, now that Ward is gone, how easy is it going to be for your two guys whose only losses are to Andre Ward? But I didn't want to make it awkward. But it's very evident that now that Ward's gone, it's really up for grabs, and it's really Sergey's crown for the taking, because he looks to be the best at 175.
I mean, it's a great question. I don't think it's awkward asking that at all, because the fact is, looking at how Kovalev ran through Shabranskyy last week, that is what he's supposed to do. It's no different than how Wilder ran through Stavern the weeks before. He is supposed to get in there, get it done, not play around, knock the guy out. On to the next thing. Keep him active, keep him busy. This new redeemed Kovalev, humble and approachable and transparent, is great. That's something they can build on. Everybody loves a great redemptive story. But Adonis Stevenson, everyone always says, oh, you know, the fans are too hard on him. What he did was in the past. But he doesn't do anything to even endear himself to the fans. He's just annoying. And I'm not going to take anything away from his skills and his one-punch power. Definitely. I don't have an issue with that. I have an issue with the fact that he don't fight. Can he fight? Can he fight
he can
somebody?
Fight.
Can he get in a fight?
Yes.
Can we put him on? Could he hang out with Broner for a little bit and get in a fight?
Whoa.
I mean, something. Can he do something other than post on social media? That's all I'm saying.
Speaking of, has he turned himself in? I'm kind of worried about him. I haven't seen any Snapchats here today, so I'm a bit worried.
You know, I don't know. He posted something on Instagram saying, I heard I was wanted. And before that, he has really been keeping a low profile, which is probably good. He did post something, he was doing some stuff over the holidays. I think he's keeping a low profile, to be honest, which is good for him. But at the same time, you never know what might pop up. Oh,
I will say his
what?
Snapchat is lit. It's always lit.
I'm going to rewind it back to Adonis Stevenson, and then I'm going to get off of whipping a dead horse. Maybe his fight didn't go through because he still can't leave the country. When that fight was announced that it was going to take place in New York, I was surprised that he could travel places because, you know, he only fights in Canada. Maybe something legally came up to preclude him from leaving the country. You just never know with these kind of things.
That would honestly make a lot more sense because, you know, with kind of even with fighters going into Canada, if you have certain stuff on your record, it's hard passport-wise to get in and out of the country. So, you know what? That could be – that wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm going to just put – that could be more to it than what we think. Look at you.
Mm-hmm. I just thought about that. I didn't even think of – I try sometimes. I'm not drinking right now. That's why. But
I am. So.
Just now, I just wanted to look at his – I went to BoxRec to see when he last fought, and he last fought in last June against Funfara. And before that, he only fought once in 17, once in 16, twice in 15. Are you kidding me? Shoot, Shannon Briggs down there has fought more than that in the last 3 years. Well, actually, he has. But it could be something related to his checkered past. You just never know. You never know.
I love how you put checkered past. Look at you showing restraint. That you're showing growth. That's what that is. You're showing growth, Ginger, and I appreciate that.
And you know what? I know that I come across as a hater on Adonis Stevenson. I'm gonna own that. I'm gonna own it. I try to stay real impartial when it comes to fighters, but when it comes to, it's just something about him is very polarizing to me. I would love nothing more than to see Badu Jack knock him out, Kovalev knock him out. Who else is in the light heavyweight division? Sullivan Barrera have his moment.
Alvarez.
Somebody do something. Somebody give him the Nancy Kerrigan and bow. You know, he can't fight me jacked up. Well, I'm not trying to give anybody ideas, but
no, we do not promote fighter violence here on Punch the Face Radio. Now, I'm still holding out hope, and I've said this on years ago on the Ruckus, and I even said it a couple of weeks ago here on the show. And Adam Abramowitz, shout out to Adam Abramowitz, held me under the fire and laughed at me and judged me. Next week, I think it's next Tuesday, matter of fact, Chad Dawson fights again. I still have some semblance of hope. I refuse to let it go. He does. He's the co-feature. He's facing Edwin Rodriguez, and Pascal's the headline.
Oh, really?
They're on Toe to Toe Tuesday on Fox Sports 1.
Wow. Wow.
Obviously, you're not reading your Chad Dawson newsletter.
I'm going to DM you my opinion on that fight. I'm going to keep it real classy tonight. But I will be tuned in for that. But I'm going to slide in your DMs on that. But I just wanted to call in, show you some love. It's a topic I feel a lot about, and so keep up the great work. I got nothing but love for you. So I just wanted to call in and show you some love.
Man, I appreciate it. I learned from you, so people can point the finger when I do something awkward, be like, see, you got that from Jandra. So, I appreciate you always being a positive role model and a mentor. And for those fans who are listening to the show, if you're not familiar with Jandra's work, you're an idiot, and you should be. She does work for Black Sports Online. She also hosts a show every Monday, the Morning Punching Show, with Raging Babe, Michelle Rosario, a.k.a. The Fight. She's a feisty little midget. I'm just going to put that out there. She's tiny and she's feisty. I like that.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. She's a teeny tiny one. But
I'm going to try my best on Monday to call in and shame her for always saying Trinidad's the greatest Puerto Rican fighter of all times.
You know how I feel about. Don't do that.
You know how I feel about Miguel, and I'm going to touch on that here in a few moments. But I just don't think he gets enough due from her. But hey, whatever. So we all grew up in different eras. We all like certain fighters, whatever. I still say Cotto's the best. But nevertheless, folks, make sure you follow Ginger and her work. Like I said, Morning Punching Show every Monday. Thank you for calling in. We got to do something here soon. You know how I feel about that. We'll touch on that off air, but we got to work together again here soon, hon, because it's always fun times.
We'll figure it out. And I'm looking forward to your year-end gifts that you give every year. So I'm looking forward to you and Miss Donna hooking that up.
Oh, that, and this year we're going to have Adam doing something on the show. So it's going to be even more special. We're going to have two different of them. We're going to have, me and Miss Donna are going to do the video, but then me and Adam are going to do a show. And the show, it's going to be so wacky that I have planned. I don't know if Adam's going to do it or not, but what I have planned, it's going to be fun and kind of tasteful, I think. We'll see.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, well, keep up the great work, and I will talk with you soon.
Absolutely. Again, Ginger LeBeau, Black Sports Online, Morning Punching Show, my mentor. Appreciate you calling in, hon. All right. Well, that was unexpected, but right on. But, as she said, man, 175 is wide open. And as well, make sure you read Adam Abramowitz's work in regards to 175 Vision. SaturdayNightBoxing.com. He's got a couple pieces up about that in regards to where he sees it playing out here in 2018. So I already spoke on it, so let me just dive into it. Because we got about an hour before Steve Forbes calls in as a part of the show. So I'm going to really need an hour to talk about this. This Saturday night, an era will come to an end that hurts me, that's coming to an end. It's probably the best way of saying it. Miguel Cotto is going to fight his final career bout in Madison Square Garden in New York City against Sadam Ali live on regular HBO. Thank God it's not on HBO pay-per-view. I want to stress that enough. It's on regular HBO because even as a Cotto fan, I don't know if I can talk myself in to dropping coin to watch Sadam Ali versus Miguel Cotto. That's another story in regards to the matchup. But we're going to talk about the man Miguel Cotto. Now, I don't see Miguel Cotto fighting again after this fight. This will be the last fight. This will be it. For anyone who saw the career retrospective show that HBO did on him this past Saturday night after live boxing, I thought they did a really good job, for starters. It also threw me for a loop that they actually did a show like that because, in my memory, I don't ever remember them doing a show based upon one fighter and their retirement. So for that, it was special because I've never seen them do that before for a fighter. Now, most cases we don't know that's going to be a fighter's final fight going into it. A lot of fighters retire sometimes afterwards after a poor performance, a couple of weeks or months after a fight, or they just never get another fight and they just kind of fade off. Or, just a lot of things happen. But Miguel has made it clear going into 2017 that this was going to be his last active year. I didn't believe it, but it looks like he's standing by that. And after seeing that and seeing how he talked about his family and how he missed things with them, he missed graduations, he missed birthdays because of the sport of boxing, and how he didn't want to miss anything else, that leads me to believe he's never coming back. This will be it. Win or lose or draw, this will be it come Saturday night for Miguel Cotto. And as someone who has been a fan of Miguel Cotto since I can remember, I have to say this. Me and Miguel are actually around the same age. I think he's only like maybe 16, 17 months even older than me. So we're actually in the same age demographic. But it's weird to say, I kind of look up to him as a fighter. Very odd to say that, given our age, but it seems like I've been watching him fight forever. And in reality, we really have. Miguel Cotto has fought in various different weight classes for now going on 16 years. He debuted back in 2001, February 23rd. And we've seen him rise. We've seen him have his shortcomings. But throughout it all, we saw him be a hell of a tough fighter. And a lot of people will give him flack for some of his diva-like tendencies. Yes, I will agree that he has, sometimes done things he shouldn't have. After losing a fight, walking out of the ring and not doing the post-fight interview, not owning up to the L. I get it, but it is what it is. But you can never say in-ring in regards to the quality of fights, he ever cheated you, the fans, who are paying to watch him fight. Never. You can never say that about him. We can say that about a lot of other fighters, but throughout his career, there's not a single fight I can point at and say he melted in on. Never. It never happened. And for you to say that about a fighter and say that they gave it all every fight, that's just something you have to respect and commend, because in this era we're in right now, we don't have that. We don't have fighters who are willing to put it on the line and willing to fight anyone. We hear more about, it's more about money than legacy with fighters. And as Cotto got older, yes, it became more of a business-like. But if you look at the man's resume, he's fought a hell of a lot of fighters. He's the only guy that I can think of can say they fought Mayweather, they fought Pacquiao, they fought Mosley. So arguably three of the best fighters, of their era, between 140 and 154. Easily. Like, those three guys alone That's a hell of a resume. Now, he did lose 2 out of those 3 fights, but he gave Mayweather hell. I still say he's gave Mayweather one of his toughest fights throughout Mayweather's career. The Manny Pacquiao fight, that was Manny's last fight where Manny was actually a beast. That was actually the last. Actually, I think it was the last fight Manny actually had a TKO. That was actually Manny Pacquiao's last knockout or TKO win. That was against Miguel Cotto way back in 2009. It was just one of those things where Manny was just too good at that time. But you look at, like I said, you look at his resume. You got, like I said, Floyd Mayweather, Shane Mosley, Manny Pacquiao, Austin Trout, Saul Canelo Alvarez, Sergio Martinez, but he was a shell of himself. Let's just keep it real there. Austin Trout, Antonio Margarito, Ricardo Mayorga, Joshua Clottey, Zab Judah. So in Paulie Malignaggi, you can't forget about Paulie, because Paulie took a beating that fight, hung in there. So the Punch the Face radio poll this week was, what was your favorite career Miguel Cotto moment? And the fans said their favorite moments. This is the options. The Margarito fights, the Zab Judah fight, Shane Mosley fight, or his overall stacked resume. 13% of the votes went to the Zab Judah fight. That was a fantastic fight there in New York. Zab had a lot of heart, but just was outgunned that night. He ended up losing the stoppage. The ref finally stepped in and called the TKO for Miguel Cotto. Hell of a fight, a fun fight. That was at 13%. At 27% each was Shane Mosley fight, and then the overall stacked resume. The Shane Mosley fight was one of those to where Mosley, when he fought, that was actually for Cotto, it was right after Zab Judah. So it's not like he took a break off and took another soft touch. He went right back into another top 5, top 3 guy there in the division when he fought Shane Mosley. And that was it, for the welterweight title. He ended up winning a unanimous decision there. A very entertaining fight. I actually remember watching that at home. Loved that fight. It was a great fight. That Cotto just outskilled Mosley down the stretch to win that fight. And like I said, the overall resume, that also got 27%. But then with 33% of the votes went to the Margarito fights. And the Margarito fights are kind of one of those things that kind of leave a weird taste in your mouth. It's one of those things to where we find out later that more than likely Margarito had loaded gloves that night. It's weird there because some people will say, well, it was never criminally investigated. The glove wraps were never tested. But it also seemed very odd that, Margarito's next fight, he got caught with those plastic gloves when he tried to fight Shane Mosley. So, go figure. And then you had the rematch, and that was after Margarito had been in a hellacious fight with Manny Pacquiao where the fight really should have been stopped. He ended up suffering irreversible damage to his eye. It was a chance the fight may not even actually happen because it's one of those things to where it was going to be questionable if Margarito was even going to get cleared by the New York State Athletic Commission. He did, and then once he did get cleared, Cotto went in to finish the job. And since then, he has left Margarito as being completely irrelevant fighting down in Mexico. So that leaves us now here to Saturday night. Saturday night, we're going to see the last of a dying breed. Now that he is gone, now that Shane Mosley's retired, I'll even throw Tim Bradley in this column and Juan Manuel Marquez. These were guys who were fighters, like legit fighters. Like business came secondary to fighting, wanting to fight the best. It was never a big thing about money. It was always want to fight the best, the money will come. Miguel Cotto retiring, we don't have any of that left anymore. That's all gone. We don't have any more fighters out there that we can honestly point our finger at and say, this guy wants to fight the best and get the check secondary. We don't have that. And like I said, I understand that for boxers, you have to make the judgment call of longevity and earning potential I get it, but just unfortunately in the sport right now, it's too much of pandering and jockeying position instead of wanting to just fight each other and fight the best. Similar to what Ginger was saying here moments ago in regards to Adonis Stevenson. He's pandering on social media, flashing his jewelry, his Lamborghini, and what have you, and talking about guys calling him out. You need to call out, hey, man, no, you need to fight the best. You need to fight other champions. And that's not happening. That happened with Miguel Cotto. Throughout his career, he was willing to fight the best and willing to put it all on the line. At times he came up short. He took on the young lion until Canelo Alvarez. He was completely undersized in that fight. I got to see that fight live in Vegas. He was completely undersized, but guess what? He still fought, and Canelo couldn't stop him. Never knocked him down or anything like that. So he was willing to fight the best. Unfortunately, here for the last fight, I wish it would have been against a bigger name opponent, but Sadam Ali's the one who decided to step up. He's the one who's willing to do it. He's one of the ones to dare to be great, and it's his opportunity. It's his opportunity to make a big deal, to make a splash, and he's got the opportunity to now do that. Now, will he be able to do that? Doubt it. I look for Ali to be game, but Ali's moving up in weight. Let's face it, he is not a legitimate super middleweight. He's moving up to 154. He's fought at 140 and 147. So he's not a legitimate 154 guy. And it's not like Miguel Cotto's huge for 154, but he's fought so much more recently at it where it's going to be more natural for him. Like I said, Ali will be game. He'll be game for a couple of rounds. Miguel will put the pressure on him. I honestly don't look for this fight to go past 8 rounds. I look for Miguel Cotto to get the stoppage within 10, but more than likely may go 8. I just don't see Ali being able to do much there. And, Ali is facing a hard puncher in Miguel Cotto. Miguel Cotto can still punch. Make no mistake about it. And Ali's chin, kind of questionable. He got knocked out by Jesse Vargas here almost a year and a half ago. And Jesse Vargas isn't a huge puncher, but does pack enough of a punch to lay somebody down. Ask Tim Bradley how that works. So he's facing a harder puncher in Cotto. I don't see Ali being able to pick up the win here. So if he's able to pull off an upset, I'd be stunned, but I just don't see it happening. Now, also on that card there in New York, see who else is here on that card. We've got Ray Vargas versus Oscar Duarte. Ronnie Rios is on the card. Jason Quigley, another guy that Golden Boy's really excited about. Eddie Gomes is also on that card as well. So, an opportunity to feature some of the fighters there for them. And this is going to be the last hurrah for Miguel, so I'm kind of surprised we're not seeing more of the guys he promotes from Miguel Cotto Promotions being a part on the card and getting an opportunity to be seen. But that'll be the next phase of Miguel Cotto's career, being a promoter down the line. So we'll see. We'll see how that transitions for him. And like I said, our guest later tonight, Steve Forbes, he's doing that transition right now to where he's transitioning from a fighter. He's now been retired about 3-4 years now, to where he's now getting in the promotional game. So we'll talk to him about that transition and how fighters, what do they do during that downtime, and what makes them flip that switch to where they still want to be involved in boxing when they no longer actually physically fight themselves. So there is that. Now, kind of done talking boxing right now until Steve calls in, but I do want to touch on a few MMA things. So there's a UFC this weekend that I had zero idea about, zero clue about. I don't know if I'm just that much desensitized or that much out of caring about MMA, but I had no idea there was a UFC this weekend. None. And it's a shame that these cards they're out, but they're just, seems like they're poorly promoted. At least they seem like they're poorly promoted to me. Now, like I said, maybe it's because I've just kind of grown tired of the UFC product. It is what it is. Now, they have a rematch here in the main event, which is going to be Jose Aldo versus Max Holloway for the featherweight championship. This is a rematch from a fight that they just had here over the summer where Jose Aldo got TKO'd in the third round. The only reason why this is happening is because injuries. Original opponents had fell out for Max Holloway. So instead, he gets a rematch with Jose Aldo. Just like in boxing, I hate rematches. I want us to see more fresh fights, more fresh matchups. Sometimes we don't always get that wish, and we're not getting that in the main event there. Maybe that's why I'm not all that enthused about this card. Now, the two fights that I think that are going to be the saving grace, actually maybe three fights, and are going to be the saving grace of this card. One is a heavyweight fight between Alistair Overeem and Francisco Ngannou. Ngannou is kind of the guy that the UFC is looking upon as being maybe the future of the heavyweight division, with a lot of flat-out just old guys in the heavyweight division. Him being 31, he's kind of one of the younger guys there in the division. It's kind of weird to say a 31-year-old is extremely young for the division. Who knew? But, you know, he wins over Alistair Overeem, huge win, puts him possibly in a title fight, his next fight out. That should be an interesting fight because both those guys can bang. It won't go 3 rounds. It won't happen. Another fight, Eddie Alvarez versus Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is the former lightweight champion for the World Series of Fighting. Everyone knows I'm a huge fan of Justin Gaethje. I think he brings the violence every time he fights. Eddie Alvarez, former Bellator champion, former UFC lightweight champion. Really has not been the same since he got his soul took by Conor McGregor last year. Big fight for him because some are going to say that, you know, maybe he was all hype. Maybe he got lucky against Rafael Dos Santos. His other wins were split decision wins over Anthony Pettis and Gilbert Melendez here in the UFC, and also his debut was a knockout loss. United decision loss to Donald Cowboy Cerrone. So, I mean, his run here in the UFC hasn't been great. And this, I don't want to say it's going to be his last go because they're thin there, they'll keep him there. But as far as him being relevant in regards to title picture, at least going into 2018, must win for him. For Justin Gaethje, he's really playing with house money because a lot of people still aren't convinced that he is as good as I've always hyped him to be, but all he does is go out and he batters opponents. He did that during his time at World Series of Fighting. Did that in his UFC debut against Michael Johnson. He's going to hurt you when you get in the cage against him. It's not even an option of if you're going to get hurt or not. You're going to get hurt. It's just how bad. And that's why I've always liked watching Justin Gaethje fight. He has a lot of wrestling skills, just choosing not to use them. He likes to stand up in the brawl and bang. The fight with Eddie Alvarez, there's no way in the world that fight's going to stink. That's going to steal the card there at UFC 218. Another fight, though, that should be also interesting is the women's strawweight division, Tisha Torres versus Michelle Watterson. Two talented ladies, two women who need a win over the opposite to kind of catapult themselves within the strawweight division. We have a new champion there. There will be contenders that need to be lined up eventually for Rose Namajunas after she has a rematch with Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So the winner of this fight puts themselves in prime position to maybe being another fight away in 2018 to being in line for a title fight, maybe mid to late part of next year. So, you know, overall, it's a decent card here besides the rehashing of the main event. Unfortunately for the UFC, though, this is the same night Miguel Cotto's fighting, so there's no way in the world I'm going to watch the fight or pay much attention to it. I will be more focused on boxing. And that's happened a lot here. We're seeing a lot more of these fights overlap to what we're seeing UFCs and MMA cards all at the same time, and it's just I hate when that happens. I know that's actually going to happen here, again here in January as well, with HBO and Showtime having a card at the same time. Hell, it's going to happen here next week as Orlando Salido's fight on HBO is going to air at the same time as Lomachenko versus Guillermo Rigondeaux on ESPN. It happens in boxing. I don't like it. I never have liked it. Whatever, it is what it is. But we'll see. We'll see how that happens and how that all works out. So there is all of that goes down here for the UFC. Also, another MMA thing I want to speak on is I got an email from Risen. I heard it enunciated several different ways. Their MMA promotion out of Japan. They have very weird matchups and weird fights, but for anyone who knows anything about watching Japanese television, they do a lot of weird things over there. MMA is going to be no different. They have a woman who is 55, or I think she's 55 or 53 years old. I want to say she's a pro wrestler. She's going to be facing a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion, and Gabby. And her last name escapes me. But Gabby is a monstrous woman. She is huge for a woman. Kind of scary, truth be told. She's one of the training partners and friends of Chris Cyborg. Gabby Garcia, that's her name. Gabby Garcia, she's a 9-time World Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. She's a Pan American champion. She's an 8-time world champion. She's won no-gi championships and what have you, and gi championships for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She's a monster when it comes to Jiu-Jitsu. She's going to be taking on a pro wrestler here in Japan. People were making fun of the fight, and I got to give Gabby credit. Her response was like, it's not bad, it's easy money. So for her to, knock herself out, go get them checks. But it's something as far as competitive goes, it's a shame that Ryzen, or whatever, however they want to enunciate it, is putting on these freak shows and wanting people to pay for it and watch it. Here in the States, I think you'd have to pay for the pay-per-view here, but whatever. Just something just doesn't sound entertaining at all. It sounds really awful. But again, man, it is what it is. This is what we've come to here in MMA. We have these weird, unnecessary fights. Bellator also announced in regards to MMA this week the lineup for their World Heavyweight Grand Prix. The tournament, we're not going to have a champion in 2018. Despite what they may say, I don't see it happening. They have fights. They have 4 first-round fights that don't start here until January, I want to say, and the last first-round fight isn't until May. It really makes no sense to stretch it out that far. If you have your final Grand Prix fight being in May, how quickly are these guys going to have to turn around? It's unfair to the fighters who fight in May to, if they get have to have a shorter turnaround than somebody who fights the fight in January. So it's strange all the way around. Very odd what they're doing there, but it's Bellator. Bellator has been doing some strange things in regards to what they do in their promotion and what have you. So I don't get it, but whatever. Whatever floats people's boat in that regards that they find interesting and find to be entertaining still with that promotion. But that's my MMA rant here for the day. Now, you heard us kind of talking earlier, and it's a shame that 2018 hasn't even come yet. And we're still, a month and some change in 2017, and we're talking about Adrian Broner having another arrest warrant. I'm not sure if he has turned himself in yet. I do know when the news broke about him having an arrest warrant out for him, his Snapchat had him in the club and then ordering Domino's Pizza afterwards and eating that with hot sauce and ranch dressing. I don't know what Adrian Broner's doing, but, the slippery slope he's on, it's a shame. Now, speaking of a shame, we already know a fight that's kind of being worked on. It was initially reported, and I should have asked Omar about this, that he was going to fight Adrian Broner at some junctures. I actually talked about here for this month, but obviously that didn't come to fruition. There's also been talk of Adrian Broner challenging for one of the titles here at 140 against Sergey Lipinets and challenging for his title. Now word is coming out here today that Adrian Broner may face Danny Garcia at a fight at 147 at some point here next year. Sounds like January of next year. The fight completely makes no sense whatsoever. I don't even know where to begin with that. What does that fight do? Adrian Broner's not a welterweight. Danny Garcia only fights once a year, so it would make sense for him to try to get his fight booked here for the first quarter of 2018 because that's the only time he fights. That it just doesn't make sense. And unfortunately, we get these matchups from here and there that just make no sense. Now, some people are excited about it because of the name recognition. And I get it. I mean, the names, it kind of sizzles a little bit, but what does the fight do for either fighter? It does more for Adrian Broner than what it would Danny Garcia, but even still, if Adrian Broner wins, are we looking at him as being a now legitimate welterweight? Or are they going to contest this fight at 140? Is Danny Garcia going to go down? I thought he had weight trouble with that. The fight doesn't make a whole lot of sense for either fighter involved. So why is it being talked about is beyond me, but I get it. They're in-house fighters. I mean, it's what PBC does. They're in-house fighters. It's easy to make. They can throw a lot of money at each other, and boom, the fight's done. Still doesn't mean I'll watch it or think it's entertaining or an entertaining bout. It just doesn't make much sense to me. But that looks to be the fight that's being worked on. Also as well, another guy that I thought, Adrian Broner may possibly face, Lucas Matisse. Matisse is going to return back to the rink here January 27th, oddly enough, which could be the same night. Showtime has a card on. Lucas Matisse and Golden Boy will be putting on a card on HBO. Also on the same card is going to be Jorge Linares, now not fighting Mikey Garcia. Matisse is going to be facing Tawan Karin for a vacant title of some sorts. I don't know which sanctioning body. Who knows? Linares is going to be defending his championship title against Marcicio Gas. So that's going to be the first card of the year for HBO. Unfortunately, for both Matisse and Linares, they're fighting and they're staying active, but they're fighting against guys that no one really wanted them to fight against. It's not competitive fights. It's not fights that make a lot of sense in regards to the bigger picture of things. It just doesn't make sense. But that's the fight we're going to get from both of these guys. We're going to get that fight, which is a shame if you think about it that, Jorge Linares has really had a great run over the last 2 years, that now this is the fight that he's going to get on HBO. After having a tough go and losing a lot of tough fights and really having to go overseas to build his career back up. And now that he's kind of built his career back up and he's on HBO, he can't get marquee names. The Mikey Garcia fight would have made so much more sense. Would have been great if the fight could have actually happened. It didn't. But, who knows what's going to happen going forward. Mikey may be fighting at 140. He may be dropping his belt here at 135. We'll see. I don't get it. Like I said, the Lucas Matisse fight, Lucas hasn't fought in so long. And, again, another guy that I was hoping would get a bigger name as a return fight. It'll be interesting to see because Golden Boy's roster is thin. Let's just call it what it is. They need guys like Lucas Matisse to continue to win. And they can headline possibly, shows and cards for him on HBO. And even maybe to a lesser extent, even ESPN if they decide to go that route. Don't think they'll ever see him on ESPN, but you never know. They need guys like Jorge Linares to win and retain their titles because that can leverage them into bigger bouts down the line. So, cards like this I don't particularly love here on January 27th, but it's one of those things that's kind of the necessary evil, if you will, in boxing. And unfortunately, we have a lot of these fights that are the unnecessary evils in boxing. And this is one of those cards that will be for both Linares and for Matisse down the line. So those guys will be fighting then on HBO here on January 27th. But like I said, man, we're going to get that card the same night as possibly a card on Showtime. We'll see who that'll be, but more than likely it's Mikey Garcia versus somebody there at that date. You know, it was also being rumored that date as well was going to be Adonis Stevenson versus Bout Jack. We'll see if Adonis Stevenson is on that card that night because he is still scheduled to fight at some juncture here early part of 2018. So, yeah, man, there's that. And then next week is really interesting as well. Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Lomachenko. We'll get into that here with Adam Abramowitz. We're still trying to lock down Shakur Stevenson, who will be fighting on that card. We're hoping to get him on during next week's show. We're hoping to get locked down and that can get in and have him or her on the air here during fight week. Another fighter who will be back in action a little bit sooner than expected and back on HBO. This is a good thing. It's going to be Cletus Selden. Cletus Selden, you know, I kind of made fun of it a little bit a couple of weeks ago when Adam was on the show prior to his fight here on HBO during the Daniel Jacobs-Luis Arza card. His promoter, Star Boxing, ended up getting a slot on HBO. HBO ended up loving Cletus Selden and loving his work rate as he picked up a win here. It was 2-3 weeks ago. It's where they're bringing him back. He's getting an opportunity to face Ives Useless Jr. here December 16th in Quebec. So instead of fighting in the New York area, he's actually going to go up to Canada, and he's going to fight. You know, shout out to him, man. He's going to be fighting again in such a short amount of time, but he also wants to get himself in the talks for titles here at 140. Selden feels that he is kind of being overlooked by some of the other names that are out there, and by beating and winning his fight here on the 16th, he feels that he's going to get himself in a good place and a good opportunity to be challenged for one of these titles, and maybe one of these sanctioning bodies have to give him a fight. So good to see that they're actually doing that. Good to see that they're actually getting him back on air that quickly. So this is going to be the first time in a real long time they're going to have somebody fighting so quickly back on air. So, you know, good for Cletus and good for Star Boxing that he's willing. They found him a fight. He's willing to take the fight pretty much in about a 5-week gap in between his first fight on HBO and now his second fight. So kudos to him. He's doing more than a lot of other active fighters are doing, whether it be they're getting on television or not. He's willing to take a fight short notice, 4 weeks, pretty much 4 weeks notice. Boom, takes the fight. He had a good fight, didn't suffer a lot of damage here a couple of weeks ago. So, hey, good for him. I'm going to go read some Twitter feedback that we got here in regards to the show. Let's see here. So, where do we want to start? Let's start here with, boom. All right. My man, Black Jordan Brennan, in regards to Broner Garcia, dumbest fight to make, doesn't help either. I agree. Horrible fight. Doesn't help out either. Makes no sense. Well, the lovely Miss Donna Marie, D. Marie, as we call her, my mom. Shout out to Miss Donna, 61 on Twitter. In regards to Miguel Cotto, she puts out a very sad gift of a little kid crying. It's the truth, man. We're going to be very sad here at our house. We will be watching the Cotto fight live here on HBO at our house. Probably eating Mexican food of some sorts. I don't know, but it'll be lit regardless. So shout out to Miss Donna for checking in there as well. What else we got here? We have Milo Play says, I guess he told you. In regards to Guillermo Rigondeaux's response to me asking about whether he's still going to be vocal on social media in regards to the Lomachenko fight, he didn't tell me off. Let's be clear. I didn't get told off by Guillermo Rigondeaux. It was actually wasn't even a scorching response. It was literally just the question I asked him. If you take an L next week, will you continue to be this vocal on social media or fade away? Wasn't anything disrespectful for it. I was like, if you take an L. Because quite honestly, I think this is going to be a very competitive fight next week. I'll give my official prediction on next week's show. But like I said, Guillermo Rigondeaux's Twitter handler handled it and wasn't disrespectful at all. I will continue to be myself. Losing to a guy, Lomachenko, is nothing to be ashamed of. However, losing to me is nothing but a guarantee so far. So you respect the confidence of Guillermo Rigondeaux's Twitter handler in regards to his well-being and being able to do that. Another report out that I got some Twitter feedback on is that Conor McGregor got in a bar fight over in Ireland here over the weekend. He might have assaulted or hit. He had some sort of altercation of some sort with some sort of gang mob leader. I'm not sure how they titled him there over in Ireland. But he's some sort of crime boss related guy or is a crime boss of some sort. But regardless, he got into something, got into an altercation with a member of a crime family over in Ireland, punched him, and now people are pretty fearful of Conor McGregor's well-being and safety. That's not good. You just made a ton of cash fighting a boxing fight. You're one of the most recognizable stars in mixed martial arts. You have Budweiser commercials. You're doing commercials for apps and other things, and your family, man. You got a kid now. The last thing you need to be doing is getting in drunken brawls in Ireland and then hitting people that you don't know who you're hitting. I've said that if he dies, he dies. You got to watch your actions when you're at a certain level, but you can leave the hood, but you can't get the hood out of some people. That's Conor McGregor's case. I mean, there's no reason whatsoever at this juncture of his career he should be drinking in a bar, fist fighting anyone. If someone's picking an altercation with you, you're at a point you're rich enough to where you should have security with you, period, because people will test you. I know you want to be a common person, and I get that, but when you talk the talk you talk, like Conor McGregor does, you got to sometimes think ahead, and he's not. So people are worried about him, his safety over there in Ireland. I can't feel bad for him at all. You assault anybody, you got to watch your back. You assault someone who's possibly a part of some sort of crime organization, you really have to watch your back. And those guys over there, who I've heard in all indications are pretty ruthless. Not a good look for Conor McGregor right now. But, again, hey, he made his bed. He's got to lie in it. I don't feel sorry for him at all. So there is that in regards to your Conor McGregor update. It just seems like he's one of those guys who always seems to be doing some dumb shit somewhere. The UFC has said they're not sure if he's ever going to fight again for them. He's made so much money from boxing, Floyd Mayweather here over the summer, to where it may not even happen. Dana White said in an interview, a press conference with media yesterday, that they're not sure. They got to first see if they can get a deal done. Conor McGregor has said in the past that if he does come back and he fights again, he wants a piece, he wants a percentage of the UFC, because he's felt he's made the company that much money to where he's worth it and should be given the opportunity to own a piece of the company. I respect that to an extent. I understand that to an extent, but it's kind of crazy to think that you can just start demanding and saying, I need this off top before I do anything. It's a crazy idea to think that that's what we're coming to, but unfortunately, that may be what they're coming to in the UFC in regards to Conor McGregor and him doing and fighting for them. So who knows, man? Who knows? It's a very interesting time for him and for the UFC. So there's that. But as we're waiting on Forbes to call in, you can call in to be a part of the show. Area code 929-477-3165. That is the number to dial in. Again, I want to thank callers here earlier. I want to thank my mentor, Giandra, for calling in. I want to thank Omar Figueroa as well. I appreciate everyone hanging in there through the few seconds of technical difficulties. hopefully, if you're listening to the show here, the replay on iTunes, we got everything together and everything kind of meshes as being one giant show. So do apologize about that. We're looking at Steve Forbes, who may be calling here in the next, I guess, 10 to 15 minutes from now to talk about his promotional gig. And now he's doing boxing promotion. So we'll talk to him here in a few moments about that. I'm thinking, is there anything else here in boxing that I am missing? Oh, man. So let's see. So there's also been a story on ESPN, and I guess it was also reported by some other outlets here, that a HIV-positive fighter was able to falsify some test results in Arkansas and was able to actually box. It's crazy to think that somebody was able to circumvent their records to box. And why would they be so selfish to actually want to fight? I can't wrap my head around that. Now, the fighter's name has not been released, obviously due to legal proceedings. You can't just release somebody's medical name and information out there because he may have hasn't told people that he knows or close by that he's HIV positive. But nevertheless, you can't be HIV positive in boxing. You can't do that. That's not fair to your opponents. That's not fair to the commission. That's not fair to anyone involved. And even your sparring partners and your coaches, your cut man. That's not fair to them if you're not disclosing and telling people this information, before you go out and you fight. Now, he did fight on a four-card bout before, like they said, it was 102 people at a Boys and Girls Club in Camden, Arkansas. Even though he was on a national suspend registry. Wow. Now, he's on a national registry, and they were still able to let him fight. Now, Arkansas does not require blood testing prior to their fights. So that's something that's actually not required as being a part of their medical examinations to obtain a license from the state. But there is a federal law the state's commissions are supposed to check the fight facts to make sure any fighter who is attempting to get a license in said state is not on that national suspend registry. And obviously, that wasn't done here by the state of Arkansas. So, it's just sad all the way around. You got a guy who's obviously still wanting to fight, but can't due to his situation. Lying on documents to get a fight. And it's not like he's fighting in front of, he's falsifying documents to get a big payday. I mean, he's fought in front of 102 people. We have more than that to listen to the show every week. So it's not like he was fighting in front of a large audience. To risk so many people just to have a fight, you're lying on your documents about having AIDS or having HIV. Yo, man, to the Arkansas Commission and to this fighter in question, you've got to be one sick bastard to be willing and just so evil to lie on documents to get a fight just to satisfy yourself when you're putting so many people at risk. That is just sick. That's sad. That's disturbing. Shame on the Arkansas Athletic Commission for them not doing their work. Shame on this fighter for being selfish and putting himself above other people's safety. It's just bad all the way around that this was even able to happen. So I hope that the fighter that was involved, that he fought against, didn't suffer any cuts. I hope that, I hope he sues the Athletic Commission. Truth be told, I hope he sues Arkansas's Athletic Commission because them not doing their proper work put him at risk. And anyone else who was around this fighter during that time who could have been exposed to these sort of fluids, especially blood, they should sue the athletic commission as well, because there's no reason that guy should have been in a boxing arena being an active fighter, period. And I know we've seen this with Tommy Morrison, where he was fighting in any casinos and having people sign waivers, and when he say no, he didn't have HIV, but he really did, and was still trying to have some kind of weird semblance of a fight career. You know, when people are that selfish, it just shows how sick they are mentally, that they haven't accepted that they have this disease and that they can spread it to others and do harm to others. They're so selfish and so wrapped around what they have going on that they're not willing to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. It's a shame. It's a real shame for that. But this is the world we live in nowadays. We have people who are more wrapped around what's going on with them than actually what's the most important thing, and that's everyone's safety. So, real shame that actually happened. But you can read that story on ESPN.com in regards to this fighter getting cleared to fight in Arkansas because people didn't do their due diligence. What a shame, what a shame. If you're also on social media, make sure you're following Floyd Mayweather on his Instagram as he gallivants around China and dressing in very funny outfits. It's probably the best way of describing it. He's on one of his world tours, if you will. It's a quote-unquote luxury vacation in China. He did shoot, there was rumors floating around back end of last week that he was contemplating a return. He's not contemplating a return. He shot those rumors down. He's not returning to boxing. He's done. Look here, if he's having these luxurious vacations, eventually he may end up coming back to boxing because the man likes to blow money and not pay his taxes accordingly. But he's not coming out of retirement. I don't see that in any circumstance happening unless he just completely goes broke over the next, few years, the next 2 to 3 years. He has something catastrophic that happens with Mayweather Promotions to where he has to come back to right the ship or to put money back in the company. Otherwise than that, he's done. You won't see him ever fight again. No Triple G, no Conor McGregor rematch, no Manny Pacquiao rematch, nothing of the sorts. He's done. If anything, anytime you start hearing about him returning to boxing, look at the bigger picture. There's going to be something else business venture-wise is going on with him to where he's wanting to get his name back out there. Case in point, the reason why all this is buzzing around is he's opening up a gym in Los Angeles. So, keep in mind, Floyd's a smart guy. He wants his name buzzing out there because he has another business venture he's working on. So never think that this isn't some sort of ulterior motive or something else he's working on. There's always something. His mind is clicking. He got his name out there because he's trying. He's going to be opening I think it's a Mayweather Boxing and Fitness there in Los Angeles. So, like I said, no truth to him returning back to the ring. But he's got his name out there because, hey, that gym is opening up here sooner. May actually be open up now out there in Los Angeles. So, keep that in mind, folks, that he's not coming back. Let it go. Move on. We have other fighters at 147 that we should cheer on. They did have the press conference today for Earl Spence and Lamont Peterson, which should be a very interesting fight when that goes down here next year. I wish we didn't have to wait so long to see Earl Spence fight since fighting Kell Brook. He did say something interesting today in the press conference. I don't know if he's just saying this to hype the fight, but he did say that he thought Lamont Peterson was a better fighter than Kell Brook. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. I think Lamont Peterson is an extremely skilled fighter. Better than Kell Brook is debatable, but all right, I'll give you what you need. Peterson also, said in some comments that, he did spar against Earl Spence years ago and thought he had something special back then and knew he was going to be a champion. So nothing but polite things to say about each other here during the press conference. That fight will go down at the Barclays Center. I think you can go get through Ticketmaster, you can go get tickets. I do know they're still offering a discount on tickets. I think it was like a 15% off deal through Cyber Monday, and I think it's still going on now. And as well, if you're in New York, it's like 2 weeks in a row I'm saying this. If you're in New York, MSG, box office, Ticketmaster.com, there are still tickets available for Miguel Cotto versus Sadam Ali here this Saturday. So opportunities to see fights here in New York for in abundance. So I know a lot of fight fans are not happy that Spence Peterson is in New York. Some thought it should have been in D.C. Some even said, why not even Vegas? Make it a truly neutral site. I don't think either one of those guys have that kind of fan base to where they can try to do a fight in Vegas. D.C. would have made a lot of sense, being that Peterson's from that area. But, you know, I don't know if that's completely fair to the champion to have to go in his first title defense against a tough opponent going in their backyard. But we've also seen with Earl Spence, he's willing to go across the country and fight, you know, in a different country to fight Kell Brook to win his title. So I get it, you know, being in Brooklyn. I know Lou DiBello's promoting the fight. They have a pretty good deal with Brooklyn Boxing there in the Barclays Center. So I get it. That's why the fight is being done there. But do kind of wish it was maybe a different site, and it could maybe have more fans available for it. Because I'm not sure how well that fight's going to sell in New York right now, given the fact Peterson hasn't fought in so long. The momentum that Earl Spence had after beating Kell Brook is pretty much all but gone. You know, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. Both those guys, what kind of crowd we get, but I think we're going to get a good fight regardless of how many people in the stands to sit and watch it. Joining us here in a few moments will be Steve Forbes. He's the former IBF super featherweight champion. He is now doing his thing as a promoter, and he'll have his first card promoted here next week up in the Portland area. So I'm going to talk to him about that. So he should be coming in here any moment to be part of the show. And that looks like that may be him calling in now. So, all right, you are live here on Punch to the Face Radio.
Yeah, well, if you throw 100 or 100 other guy, that's it. $200 for a boat. You know what I mean? Yeah. You save $800.
You're live here on Punch to the Face Radio.
Yeah, this is Steve Forbes calling in.
What's going on, Steve, man? How you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Oh, man, not bad at all. I appreciate you joining us here as you embark in being a fight promoter here December the 9th. Jackson Armory here in Portland, Oregon. Fans can get tickets through tickettomato.com and just search boxing. Steve, man, what in the world made you decide to get into the promotional game after years of being a pro fighter?
I've always wanted to do that. I've always kind of wanted to promote myself, but, I couldn't at that time. So I've always thought, you know what, it'd be a good idea to come back to my hometown since they don't have professional boxing here anymore and kind of jumpstart, kind of a fight series, and especially with, the amateur guys, because when I fought here, I mostly did it as, it was an amateur. And we didn't have the pro fight, so the amateurs were the big guys, and it was fun, man. So I thought, why not incorporate them both together? Because, this is not a big place, but we got a lot of talent here, so why not?
So it sounds like it's very important for you to give not only the guys who are turning pro, but these amateurs a platform to showcase their skills to where it's not there in Portland for those guys to do that. So is it very important for you to give this next generation of fighters that platform and that stepping stone of being in front of a crowd and getting used to that as their careers go on in boxing?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I want to give, guys an opportunity. I had to like move away to Vegas to start my career, and I love Vegas for accepting me, as a boxer there and stuff like that. But, guys don't have to move away to become successful, and I figured, hey, I did all that work and, I was put in that being a pro 20 years and, getting to the heights of becoming a world champion. It was my duty to come back to my hometown and kind of help and look after the other guys, coming up and work with, a lot of the coaches and, a lot of the coaches and the trainers and the officials here too, man. We got some good people here in our Northwest, that know boxing and they love boxing. So I had to do it, If it wasn't me, I don't know who. It would have been, the next kid coming along in the next 15, 20 years after their career was over. So I definitely wanted to do that, and I've always thought about doing that.
Now, in your 20 years of being, a professional fighter, what did you learn from dealing with promoters that's going to be helpful for you, and also something you want to stay away from in dealing with the fighters that you have to dealt with dealing with promoters throughout your career?
Well, I want to be straight with them, kind of tell them like my card here. This card is evenly matched fights. These guys, either guy is capable of beating the other guy, and I kind of want to be straight and say, hey, you know what? This is where we're at, and in order to kind of move forward, you gotta kind of break in. So, I want to be straight with them. I want to be able to talk to them. I want to be able to come watch, the fighters work to make sure that they're in condition to compete. So me being a fighter, I think I'm more fighter than anything else. Like my attitude and my grit is from a fighter, because I've been through everything, man. Like I've experienced from the promoter that's happy to see you till, just one walking by you like they don't even know you, and so, I've experienced all that, and, I'm glad to kind of be a promoter and kind of help these guys and watch after them, and even the girls too. If I get some females fighting, that same thing. I just kind of want to look after people. I think I want to be kind of a helper to make sure they get the best opportunity they can, especially locally. And then that can lead to, bigger opportunities, bigger, promotions and bigger promoters and stuff like that. So
now, I know you don't want to think too far ahead, but you're going to have your first card here, like I said, December the 9th. But what would be the plans for you and for 2 Pound Sports and Entertainment going into 2018?
Just to keep the shows going, to keep them bigger and try to bring bigger and bigger matches, and make this place a kind of like the old times. You had the old fight towns back in the 30s and 40s, and every major city they had a little fight club. New York, in Boston, in Jersey, California, Pennsylvania, stuff like that. I want to bring that old school fight feel back to where, we got our own fights happening. And then you kind of start matching guys against other guys from the other side, from the, other cities. Kind of feel like a fight club amongst, former fighters, and kind of, get these guys involved too, man. So I got this, I'm an imaginary person, so I got big hopes and dreams, and I just kind of want to create like a fight club, like local fight club. Now,
since you've been retired here now, about 3 or 4 years now, what do you think in today's boxing is the biggest difference that you see from when you were in your prime and fighting in the Titleist? What do you think is the biggest change for the sport of boxing?
Well, the guys are getting paid a whole lot more, man. That's a big change. Yeah, these guys are getting paid a lot, and a lot of them are getting paid a lot without even proving themselves. That's what it's almost like whoever has the best gimmick, can kind of weave their way through. And so with so much exposure now, you got all the social media and stuff like that. When I was champion, we didn't have a lot of the, there was no Facebook and all that stuff. I mean, Facebook came around when the second part of my career, like when I fought Oscar De La Hoya and all that type of stuff. But during the time I was champion back in 2000, it wasn't, the Instagrams and all that stuff going on like that. So people got more of an outlet, which can bring them more attention and in turn more money. So fighters are getting paid a lot more now. That's the biggest thing I've seen.
Now, one thing that we kind of on that same line, do you think you're seeing more of these younger guys who are looking to maximize their earning potential, where they're putting money before legacy? And is that something in the bigger picture of boxing to where that's going to hurt the sport if we have more guys just kind of willing to nitpick and choose fights instead of being great and fighting other champions?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you was, saying. I think guys are, they saw Floyd Mayweather and how he did it, and Floyd was doing that to promote himself. He was trying to. Now you see everybody's want to bling bling and trying to searching for money, looking at money, talking about money. It's no talk of, I think I can beat this guy. I think I'm skilled. I'm better than him. I want to be a multiple champion. I mean, you don't really hear that. You just hear about money. It's about money, and it's taken away from it a bit. What happened to the guys that grinded away and pecked away and earned those spots? So, I mean, it's looking like the guy with the biggest money, it can kind of maneuver, being that if it's a power broker, I mean, anything. It's just different. Guys are more about money now.
And is that something you're going to make sure that, especially with the amateur guys, you tell them, like, it doesn't come in one swoop? Is that something you're going to try to take these young guys underneath your wing and show them that you can't get it all in one fight? You're not going to make millions of dollars your fifth fight out, and kind of be a little bit more realistic with them instead of the image that's being projected out to a lot of these young fighters now that the money's just there. It's not always the case.
Absolutely. One of the first promoters I had, his name was Tony Trunich, and he ended up passing away. But he told me something, man. He was like, there's no respect, and this was in like the 90s. This is like 98, 98, 97, 98. And he was saying that these guys are always chasing money, man, but they don't hone their skills and really learn to appreciate it. Because if you're skilled, man, you'll make your own money instead of getting pumped up and kind of blown out. A lot of guys get pumped up. They get built up. They're not fighting the right guys. And then they get to this point. They all only care about being undefeated. And they get to this point, and then you become exposed. Yeah, you make a lot of money, but you're damaged. I don't want to see that happen to the guys I know or the guys I get involved with. I kind of want to see them earn their spot. And, yeah, maybe a little bit more blue-collarish, but you'll respect it a lot more once you get there. So that's just my take.
No, you're speaking the gospel to me because I completely agree with you. I think that's something that a lot of the fighters are getting away from, is that blue-collar mentality, that attitude that you gotta earn your keep. You gotta work for it. Nothing comes overnight. I know that from doing this job here in podcasting. It doesn't come overnight. You gotta work at it. You gotta grind.
Gotta work and grind. My grandma, man. Everybody has that matriarch, that special person in their life. My grandma was my mom basically, because I was born weighing 2 pounds and struggling for my life, and my mom was a teenager when she had me. So I grew up with my grandma, and my grandma always stressed, she was like, listen, if you go get it the hard way or go get it, a planned way, and you fighting scratch for everything you have, you're going to definitely appreciate it when it's all said and done. And you'll learn something along the way. You'll learn a lot of things about people and just about, being better. And that's, what my plan is.
Well, absolutely. Your grandmother sounds like she could have been kin to my grandmother, because that's the same things that she instills in all of us, and the grandkids and her kids, that you got to work hard if you want something in life. You're going to appreciate it more, and the fruits of your labor, it'll show down the line. Yep. So, absolutely, I 100% agree with you there. Now, just kind of maybe one more note before we go. What are some of the fighters that that these guys, that our listeners may not know of, that you're working with, that you may want to just kind of give them a shout out that are going to be on the card, that may be bigger names that we're going to hear more about in the future?
Well, really, I'll tell you, a lot of the amateur guys are going to be some names you're going to be hearing about. We got a guy, Cole Gabriel. We got Lorenzo Caldera. I mean, these guys I look at in the future, so, and they're on their card, I'm excited about them. And then we got, the pros, the light heavyweight, James Ballard, which, I used to live in Detroit, and so, they're they're kind of showing me some love, and I'm showing them some love about working together and having him come out and fight on the show, man. And I'm just excited to see how everybody maneuvers in their career or moves on, because these fights, they are pretty evenly matched. I mean, especially for a first show. I mean, I've seen some shows where guys fought and you just automatically knew who was winning. You know, these ones are, it's kind of hard to tell. So I like that. Not, I wouldn't have it any other way doing a first show like this.
Well, absolutely. Well, again, man, for fans who live up in the Oregon area, you can get tickets through tickettomato.com by searching boxing. Again, that's going to be December the 9th, Jackson Armory. Steve 2-Pound Forbes, I wish you the best of luck here with promoting, because you and I both know boxing is a crazy, crazy sport. We all got to be a little bit crazy to be involved with it. So I commend you for wanting to take these young guys underneath your wing and showing them the right way. And then this is going to be the first step here come December the 9th.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I got to say, I want to thank my partner, Christina Lundsman. She is the best. I mean, she had all this stuff mapped out, and we just kind of clicked together to kind of get this stuff going. And I couldn't do this without her. So she loves boxing, and I love boxing, and this is going to be great.
Well, absolutely. When your heart's into it, it doesn't become a job. It becomes a passion. So I really do wish you the best of luck. And you never know, man. Hopefully, this time next year can be even bigger. You're doing shows in the Rose Garden there in Portland. So you never know, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, never know. Got to start somewhere.
Man, absolutely. Well, again, man, we appreciate you taking time out this evening to join us here on Punch the Face Radio. Fans can get those tickets at tickettomato.com by searching boxing. December the 9th, man. First card goes down, man. Best of luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks.
All right. Again, that was Steve 2-Pound Forbes. First fight card is a promoter here next weekend up in Portland. So if you live in the Northwest, I know I was going to say that. Northwest area, if you live in Portland area, man, go support it. Amateur fighters, pro fighters. It's a real good look, though, to give the amateurs a platform to be on with pros, more eyes on them, and they get some used to bigger stages as their careers progress and go on. But it's really good to hear these doing real even matchmaking. Like you said, man, and in a lot of these smaller shows that you see these fighters and fights that are not evenly matched, that are blowouts, that are not competitive, and that's not fun. That's nothing that people really want to see out there. So if you're putting on fun, competitive fights, the fans will come. I do know in the Northwest that is a fight town. Portland actually is a fighting community. I mean, I know MMA was strongly supported there for a long time when he had cards there and would sell out really big arenas. I know they used to do shows at the Rose Garden up there in Portland, one of the MMA promotions, and that was before even a major television deal. They would do big numbers there. So I would not be shocked at all, and I said this, but I would not be shocked at all if this time next year Steve isn't putting on shows, possibly at the Rose Garden with the Trailblazers place. So I mean, it's quite feasible, because if you put out a good product, the fans will come to it. Period. There's just no way around that. There's no other way of explaining it. If you put on a good show, the people will come out and will support it. And when they support you, you'll continue to do good work. So, I mean, it's going to be real good to see that, we've got former fighters staying involved in boxing, and now that next phase of their career, they're going to promoting. So I always think it's a good thing. If you're not going to be training fighters, stay in the sport of boxing in some way, shape, or form. In this case, Steve Forbes is doing that with promoting, and I got to respect him and love him for that. So appreciate him taking out the time to be a part of tonight's show. But I want to thank everyone who was a part of tonight's show. You, the listeners, thank you. Appreciate it. If you're listening to this here on Stitcher Radio or on YouTube or on iTunes, appreciate you tuning in and subscribing. Thank you. If you listen to it live, as always, thank you for joining in. Next week, Adam Bromowitz of Saturday Night Boxing. possibly Shakur Stevenson, who knows what else. We'll talk about here next week. Obviously, Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. We'll talk a little bit about Cotto's retirement fight. Adam will probably make fun of me if I get a little bit emotional talking about the last time seeing Miguel Cotto fight, but whatever. I'm prepared for whatever slander he drops my way. And as well, like I said, next week we have John Pascal fighting and Chad Dawson both fighting. So we'll talk about those fights and if those guys have anything left, and if they can offer anything at 175. So we'll talk about that on next week's show. But if you're listening to the show and you're not familiar with me, make sure you follow me on Twitter at BrandonP2TF. PunchTheFace.com is the website. Not a lot there, but hey, sometimes you never know. It sneaks something up on you. And also next week, I will do a quick, brief run-through of Invicta FC. I will be covering that fight card live here the 11th, next to me, the 8th, December the 8th. So I'll be covering that card, so I'll be talking a little bit about that as well on the show next week. So, with that being stated, again, appreciate everyone hanging in there throughout the technical difficulties, but hey, we got back on the air relatively quickly. Thank you to Omar Figueroa. Thank you to Giangelo LaBeouf. Thank you to Steve 2-Pound Forbes for joining us here on tonight's show. Until next week, as I always say, and anymore, I cannot stress this enough, people. I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, love one another, because it's the only way we're going to get through this. Until next week's Punch the Face Radio, I am Brandon Stubbs. I'm out.
Hey, where are you going, Jim? The elevator's over here.
Taking the stairs.
But our meeting's up on 8.
Yeah, I know.
But that's 8 floors up. That's like 8 times 8. A lot of stairs.
That's the point. I've already lost a few pounds and earned almost $100 in wellness incentives.
Whoa, you're getting rewarded for working out?
Yeah, I know. I'm just as surprised as you are, Bob.
Fearless is full of surprises. That's the power of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Federal Employee Program. Learn more about our healthy benefits and sign up at fepblue.org/chooseblue by December 11th.